Can everybody see this? Oh, look at that.
All right. Well, Aaron, I'm grateful to have you here. Everybody, this is Aaron Meyers. He is a veteran, and he is currently with Transcend Employee Engagement Training for corporate America. And he's going to talk to us tonight about using compassion as a job search strategy and how to leverage people's emotional reactions and responses in your job search. So, Aaron, without further ado, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us about your topic?
Yeah, sure. No, thanks again, Alan, for having me here. I mean, I really appreciate this group and all it does to assist our, our veteran brothers and sisters in arms. So I'm a proud veteran, 23 years in the Army, recently retired from active duty service. I'm the general manager for Transcend Engagement. Right now, currently, I'm in pursuit of a PhD in organizational leadership. And everything that I have today is due to the Army. It's due to the military. It's due to the brothers and sisters that I served with. And this is one of the reasons why I believe that my service is for life. So anything that I can do to help out this group or anyone that you know of in the future, please let me know. Now, enough about me, because this presentation is all about you. So Alan, thanks for the ramp up. I really appreciate that. My goodness, that's a way to set the expectations super high. So when Alan asked me to speak, I thought to myself, like, oh God, I love talking. This will be perfect. And then he gave me the topic and I thought, no, I think I know what a pastor feels like when they have to give a sermon about tithing, right? Because here we are, soldiers, and we're talking about compassion. Like what was that old quote that Allen Iverson had? Practice. Talking about practice, man. We're talking about compassion as soldiers. Well, I want to tell you something right now. This is a topic that I truly believe can help you put you over the top if you're looking for employment. But at the same time, too, if you're somebody who is an advocate for veterans, if you're hiring, please pay attention to this, because there's some things I think you can pick up here too that's going to help you to walk away here with more tools in your tool belt. All right, so that being said, we're going to jump to the second slide here. I want you all to take a look at this. Can everyone see this slide here where it says why this subject is so important? Perfect. All right, look at these statistics and just tell me the world isn't in a completely different place than it was like 40, 20, 10, even 5 years ago. I mean, these are not endearing statistics. 72% of people, of active employed people, want to leave their jobs right now. When I saw that statistic, it blew my mind away, and I'm thinking, there's no way that can be true. Well, Gallup did it, so it's got to be true, right? But at the same time, too, I also kind of thought to myself, like anyone that's ever been on a deployment overseas, how many people want to get out of the Army the second that you get out of that deployment? You got that feeling maybe that can last for a couple months or so. So we can kind of relate to this a little bit. But the bottom line is that, for the problems that the world has today, who in the world can better handle that than a veteran? You know what I mean? Like motivating, influencing, providing purpose. That's what we do. So why is it across the country, and I work with a lot of veterans too that are seeking employment, why are we finding that veterans are being asked to take entry-level positions while the 23-year-old with little life experience but has a college diploma is being offered the same position? Why is that? So today I want to help you all turn the tables on that. I want to give us some ammunition so we can assist our brothers and sisters, and that we can actually help to better sell ourselves in the language that the business world can understand. So I'm going to jump to the next slide here. All right, here, let's just jump into it right away. Let's talk about compassion, empathy. I looked this up in the dictionary, and just for a note, I always considered myself to be a leader of compassion. I always believed in the Army values, all the way up and down, to include self-service, to include living the NCO creed, which means you will always put your soldiers' welfares and needs ahead of your own. I was a true believer in that. But what is it for the definition of it? It's simple. It's the act or action of understanding. That's probably a little different from what you would think it would be, but for all intents and purposes, let's put it back in this demonstration and into this definition. It's absolutely a critical ingredient to the process of influencing others by providing purpose, direction, and motivation to accomplish your objectives and to improve the organization. Now, if you've heard that definition before, you have served in the Army, you've read ADRP 6-22, and you know what the definition of leadership is, because leadership is all about action. So compassion, empathy, we're going to call it C&E to this point here, is all about that. It's a critical component to leadership, right? So how did this affect me when I first got out? So I get out of the service, And I must have submitted last year sometime, I must have submitted about 240 different applications. I was interviewed countless times unsuccessfully for about a 3 to 4 month period. If you've heard this story before or lived it, believe me, I've brothers and sisters, I've been there. And when I asked for feedback about what was going on, because here I am I consider myself to be an educated guy with domestic foreign experience that nobody in the civilian world can probably touch. So what's really the problem here? And one of the most honest feedbacks that I got from the people that are doing the interviews saying that, look, right now we're restructuring, it's COVID, we just don't have the time to train people in right now. I'm sure you've all heard that before if you've been active in the job seeking process. That's a pretty tough pill to swallow, though. That's a really, really tough pill to swallow, because again, like, look at the people in this room. Look what we've been asked to do in the defense of the freedoms of this country. So I decided to go a little bit deeper, and I went to some people that I trusted a lot, people I served with, and I said, look, I just need someone to be brutally honest with me. What in the hell am I doing wrong here? And went through the process with them, and they told me flat out, they said, you know what, for a guy that led his whole career with compassion and empathy and all this, and you're not doing a very good job of selling it. You're trying to make this about you when it really should be about what you built. So today, when I took that, I'm going to give you an example of how I got this job by using that advice and understanding that I just wasn't simply prepared. So if there's anything I can do today, like I said, I want you all to walk away here today with something that you can put in your tool belt that's going to help you, either to help a veteran or help yourself to get to that next level. So let's talk about what C&E is not. Okay, because a lot of people take a look at this and they say to themselves, okay, well, why would I try selling this on myself when it's the characteristic of soft leadership? It's not. Remember, it's an action. It's trying to find out and understand what makes your people operate, what makes your people tick, what makes your processes work, and what makes them not work, right? So it's also not sympathy. Sympathy is way different, right? Sympathy is something that you share with somebody else. Compassion and empathy is something that you have to hone in on and use your interpersonal skills to understand and connect with them. The last thing that's a little bit difficult to tell, and this is one of the reasons why it's tough for us to sell this, is that you'll never find it on an evaluation report. Sorry for all of you that haven't been in the Army, but anyone that's not been in the Army, we use non-commissioned officer evaluation reports, officer evaluation reports. And I'm telling you right now, in my 23 years of service, 18 of them as a non-commissioned officer, I've never once saw a comment on there that related to my ability to truly understand my people and build a strong team. So again, how do we do that? I'm going to teach you and show you right now that every single person in this room is qualified. Because if you can tell me one person, just one person whose life that you improved because of your leadership abilities, then you've exercised C&E, and you're more than deserving to talk about it too. So here's some of the big reasons why we have a hard time discussing this. As human beings, we're programmed differently. We're programmed to survive. It means justifying our own existence. And in doing this, we kind of forget about what we've done for others and what we've done for the organization. Another reason is that it's a hard habit to break. We're just not very good at listening. We're not very good at interviewing. We're good at what we know, but when we put it into a position and we're not really familiar with it, we're going to revert to old habits. Today, I want you to break those habits. And then third, not all of us speak civilian. I know I didn't. I still have a hard time with it. I still light up as a general manager for this organization. I still light my people up when they're 2 minutes late to a Zoom meeting. And believe me, that'll never die with me, never. So it's just the way I'm wired. And it's the way that you're all wired too. I get that. And I understand that. However, there's a way around this. And I'm going to kind of revert a little bit to the organization I belong to right now, which is Transcend Engagement. The reason I chose this organization and this line of employment is because it deals with people. It's no different than what we did in the military. Our job was to take care of people first and people always. With that, the mission was accomplished. So if you want to take notes and you want some buzzwords for how to get through to the real world right now and how to exemplify your service, take a look at these 6 talking points right here. This is developed, and you can steal this because it comes from my organization and my CEO, Dr. Bob Randall. These are the 6 principles. Everything that we do is nested within these principles of employee engagement. The first one, your relationship with your boss. Think about your first line leader or your tenure as a first line leader for a soldier, airman, seaman, or Marine. 70% of your engagement will come from that first line leader. Who spends 70% of their time with their spouse, right? Now think about how powerful that is when you're spending all that time with that first line leader. So how important is that? And this is something that every single person in this room here has been accounted for and has been responsible for. Recognition is just very self-explanatory. It's the easiest thing we can do, but sometimes it's the easiest thing for us to miss too. I don't understand how it can really be overlooked. Performance management, basically developing your replacement, right? Who hasn't done that here? Who hasn't been trained to develop their replacement? If you can't accomplish goals without winning the moment, and winning the moment means that your replacement or the people that serve underneath you have to be able to take over for you in any kind of a situation or circumstance. So we're well versed with that. Let's go down to employee development. Take a look at the same principle. You expect your leaders to be able to do the same thing for their employees or their soldiers or airmen or Marines or sailors that we're doing for them too. Social belonging. Who in the world is better equipped to make sure that everyone belongs to a certain group? We don't have lone wolves. We work within a very diversified organization where the only color we see is green, blue, and whatever your uniform is. So building esprit de corps through belonging in an organization is something that we exemplify. And then communication, just not being two-way, but also being face-to-face. And for some of us in the most extreme of circumstances, we understand clear and concise communication and the importance to it. I want you to be familiar with these terms if you're not already, because as we go through this presentation here, I'm going to try to show you how you can implement this into this business corporate America speak, so that you can better tell your story about how you're equipped through the compassion and empathy. Let's go to the next slide. All right. So let's talk about the interview process, right? Anyone that's been through interviews lately know that not all interviews are created equally. And unfortunately, they may not be structured to benefit the soldier, as there is a certain home field advantage to internal candidates that we just aren't necessarily equipped to have. So I want to just throw a couple things out here, because sometimes, we're very good as veterans of outflanking situations. Who's ever been in a position where they've had to outflank something? I know I have, right? You're given the rules of engagement. You're like, all right, well, I know I got to get this done, but I'm going to get it done legally, morally, ethically, but I'm going to do it in a way that's going to make the most sense. So I'm going to teach you how to outflank this here a little bit. What if, and in most interviews, I would say 9 out of every 10 interviews for me started off when I was going through the process of looking for employment with, tell me about your life. Tell me about who you are and what you're all about. What if I changed the tone of that? What if I changed the rules of that a little bit? And I asked you, tell me about the people that you developed. Give me 3 people whose lives are better because of you. Tell me what you did for them, how you developed them, and tell me where they are today. Now, what does that do right there? Right there, it is already kind of killing a stigma, which we're going to talk about in greater detail here, about when veterans apply for jobs, right? It addresses elephants in the room, whether it's a lack of experience within that certain job field, whether it's an unwarranted stigma that soldiers are hardened creatures, that we just we can't be trained or reverted to normal lives, which I'm telling you, I've had people tell me that straight out, right out of their mouth, saying like, look, we're just kind of scared to bring you on, which for one is big time illegal, but we're going to find ways around that. So here's a couple things that I want to share with you that worked for me. We all, for the longest period of time, or for however long you're in the service, lived under a code or credo or a rule of ethics. You all have a leadership philosophy. If you haven't developed a leadership philosophy right now that explains who you are and how you handle situations, build one today. Well, maybe not today, it's the holidays. Build one after the holidays, right? Build one after the holidays. And I'm going to send one to the group here afterwards about what mine looks like. But this is something that one of my battalion commanders encouraged upon me. And I wrote it back in 2009, just before we deployed to Iraq. And I looked at that today, and the principles that I had applied in 2009, they hold true to today, because it's me. It's genuine. It's who I am. It doesn't revert to something that I'm not. And it definitely helps me to get in front of those anticipated questions, right? Where these organizations, again, what are they looking for? They're looking for people that can help with retention, training, compliance, safety, sales quotas, performance, you name it, building a resolute team. These are things that we as veterans can absolutely take advantage of. So I'll show you that a little bit later, and I'll send that out to you, Alan, once we get done with this presentation here. But the probability of you jumping into an organization, whether you want to be in a management position or higher, you're going to face the fact that you're going to have a problem with the learning curve. It's going to be immense. I mean, I foresaw that when I interviewed with the job that I currently had. And one other thing that I want to bring up to you that I think would really be helpful, if someone asks you, like, what would you think that you need to do to overcome your greatest weakness? Well, the first thing that a lot of people are going to say, especially people in our position, and I did this a lot, was a learning curve, right? So again, when I started finding out that people are like, okay, it's going to take a while for him to learn, or I can just put this person in place right here. I don't care about the intangibles and everything else. It was time for me to turn the tables on it. So for this job that I applied for this organization, Transcend Engagement, I knew they were going to ask me this. I'd never dealt with employee engagement, but I sure as hell had dealt with a lot of people in a lot of situations. So when they asked me that question and they said, how are you going to handle the learning curve on here? Do you know what I did to them? I wrote a 20-page research paper on employee engagement, the state of it today, and what it's going to look like in the future. And then I wrote a separate paper about 15 pages long that showed my first 100 days. I basically told them, I said, this is what I'm going to do when I step into this door. I'm going to take charge. I'm going to take these initiatives based off of everything I learned. I'm going to take your influence and everything else, but I'm already 3 months ahead of the game because I've already done my homework on this organization. Now, I'm not telling you got to author a 35-page, 40-page paper. Don't have to do that, but it's not out of the question that I believe that you should write something up about your first 100-day plan if you want to be in a management position. Why not? What do you have to lose? Because it's not a whole lot different from what you've done in the past with every other situation you've been in a leadership position. Get that thing out there. I'll send that to you too and to the group. Alan, I think I sent that to you before. I don't think he believed me when I told him I wrote a 40-page paper to get this job, and I sent it to him. And so I don't know if you had I wouldn't have read it if I were you, Alan, but it's there. It's out there. So, and again, the worst thing that someone could say is no. Okay, so let's talk about today's generation. This is where we're going to start creeping a little bit into the C&E aspect of this. This is teaching you how to speak and the questions and the relations to how people are motivated nowadays, right? So let's talk about Gen Y and Gen Z. Gen Y, Gen Z. For some people, those are 4-letter words. I get it. You know, they're definitely not made like we were, but they are the future of this country. And these are the people that you're going to be asked to work with and lead, with whatever organization it is you go into. So I want you to take a look at this, please. Take a look at these 8 to 10 different talking points here and just let them soak in, right? Some of these are exceedingly difficult for us to relate with. Like, let's go to the one, where's the one that I'm looking at? Ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Wow. How do we do that? You know, like all we've ever done is comply. That's what we've done, right? We don't ask questions. This is what's that quote out of that movie that Gene Hackman was in, where Crimson Tide, where he says, we're here to preserve democracy, not practice it, right? Well, that's us. So what in the world can we do? And how are we going to get to doing that? So I take a look at these, right? And I think to myself, God, it's going to be a hard time relating to this generation. But then I realize this list right here was built by Dale Carnegie in the year 1936. What was happening during that time period when he was collecting this information? The country was going through the Great Depression. I mean, people were dying because they didn't have enough sustenance. And this is what they were saying. I was expecting something a lot more cutthroat for someone that was offering leadership advice for that time. So when I looked at this and I took a look at the circumstances, and by the way, this comes from one of the best-selling books in the history of history. I believe Dale Carnegie has sold 30 million copies of this. People will always be people. People will always yearn to be influenced, to be motivated, to be driven. And today's culture really is no different. We just have to learn how to speak that language a little bit differently. It's here to stay. We're not going to escape it. And let's revert back to why this is truly important. Remember that first slide when I show you 72% of people are actively choosing or looking to leave their jobs. That's insane, right? But again, who is better equipped to handle that? All we have to do is learn this little bit of it, apply it to what you've done and what you know, and you will be ready when it comes out there and they say, like, look, how are you going to better this organization? Well, I'll tell you, the first thing I'm going to do is that $8.1 trillion that's wasted, 10% of the global domestic product, I'm going to make sure your company doesn't lose 1 cent of that $8.1 trillion. Let someone else hire somebody that's not qualified for that position. Put me in it and I'll show you what to do. I'll show you how we can take care of it. And I'm going to develop very, very good leaders and very good employees for you. Right. So that's kind of that FIBA that I skipped over a little bit earlier. Has anyone ever heard of the STAR technique or FIBA? Right. Fact, evidence, benefit, acceptance, and then the STAR technique too, same thing. You know, the principles of the interview don't have to change. Just remember, you're just using different information to tell your story in a way that you're not used to. Okay. So let's move down here. I can give you a pretty good example of how this worked for me. And if you recall, when I said that question about how have you made other people better? What have you done? So whatever your background is, wherever you came from, I guarantee you that you left the military a better place, or if you're currently serving, the military is a better place for you being in it. When I went to this interview with Transcend Engagement, I did tell them this, and this is one of the pieces of advice that I got. So much of my career was spent in recruiting. So I spent about 8 years as a team leader, as a first sergeant before after my deployments, and then kind of jumped in that realm. The national career average for a military recruiter is 1.3 years. So anyone that wants to jump in recruiting, I would say don't do it. Right? I was just kidding. But, or if you have experienced that pain, it's a painful job, right? It's 1.3 years. So what does that mean for me? Well, I can tell you this right now. I know that 6 of the 10 E8s that are currently in the Minnesota Army National Guard were trained underneath me. And I can tell you that 2 of the 3 sergeant majors are people that I led. I can also tell you that the teams that I built, especially in southeastern Minnesota, there's 7 of the 10 employees that I hired within my first 3 years that are still in place there. Now tell me that's not the sign of a person that can build a strong team. You have that information too. You do. I guarantee you do. Take a look at your retention rates. Take a look at the people that you've led. Take a look at the people that you've taken the time to really breed. And I mean, they come in all shapes and forms. I don't need to tell you that, but the stories are right there. You know, they're right there. You can talk about that. Say, look, you know, the military in general, the Army, I know this, the Army considers it a gain when someone in the National Guard finishes 4 years of their 6-year obligation, because they have met all the requirements for all the costs that it takes to train that person. So I know we've done better than that, right? I really know that we have. So just take that for an example. Anyone that's lasted more than 4 years in the service that has had a direct influence under you have been a major part of that. You have been a major part of keeping this country secure because of the training and the leadership that you provided to that person. But again, you're not going to see any of this on evaluation reports, and that's unfortunate. So if you don't exploit it, nobody else will. So I leave that up to you. Let's talk about some problems that we have with this model too, because this is, when I was doing my research with this, it's not a perfect science. And it's good to know that some of the difficulties you're going to encounter with this. So first thing is that not everybody connects with this. There's a million different forms of leadership out there, different theories, different situations. This right here, what you see on this screen, is called situational leadership. And it usually breaks people down into 4 different quadrants. People that need, and I'm just going to put this in military terms here. You got people that need to be led hard because they have behavior and competence issues. And you got your people you really, you know, and then everything in between for your people that really kind of like got it figured out, right? So the best thing about this is that you can actually group your people and develop a time management theory off of this. However, with compassion and empathy and using these critical features of how to communicate with today's generation of workers, It's not the easiest thing to do, right? Because we're used to leading people in, what is it, subcategory S1, the directing category. We're used to leading those people hard, really, really hard, right? And most of the time they'll turn out for it, but we can't do that in the civilian world, will we? So then what happens after that? Then what happens is you find yourself spending 90% of your time on 10% of that quadrant. And you will not be an effective leader if you find yourself in that position. So my advice to everyone is this: be genuine, be who you are. Don't try to be something you're not, right? You can still have a strong demeanor and a stoic appearance and emphasize compassion and empathy, C&E, as long as it is the action of understanding. Everything that has to do with that. You don't have to turn into some cuddly teddy bear or anything like that. Just be who you are. And the second thing is this, is that we're not trained psychologists, right? We're not. Keep it simple. The best advice I ever got from a senior leader when it came to counseling people was this. He asked me this. He said, is it a training issue or is it an attitude issue? Because if it's a training issue, you own that and you better own it. If it's an attitude issue, you own that as well. However, when you lay the foundation and truly understand what that person needs to get them motivated, it's a plan that you will set in action and a conversation that you should not have to have 2 times. It's the best advice I ever got. It kept it simple and it kept it clean, and it allowed me to communicate clearly and concisely to these people. Okay. All right. Alan, how are we doing on time? I just got a couple slides left here. Awesome. Fire it up. So let's talk about the biggest issue that I had and some of the issues that some of our prospective veterans who are looking for employment might have too, is time. Time, it really is a loaded weapon for us. We know that C&E is a key ingredient to everything that we do, and especially to the leadership process. However, we know that that takes time. You can't just develop people overnight. And today, with organizations restructuring, organizations that are taking that direction where they want to say, look, I need things done right now because we need to take advantage before COVID really puts us out of business. Time isn't a luxury that a lot of organizations have, which is one of the reasons why I believe a lot of organizations were very, very upfront with me saying, look, we just don't have the time to train you. Okay. But however, with that, how do you turn the table on that to show them through your development of people and your ability to lead people in the right direction that they are by going the second and third causal effects that are going to basically damn their organization, right? Because that 72% isn't going away. That $8.1 trillion is only going to go up unless these organizations find people of purpose, leaders of action, and people who are willing to take that step forward in order to make organizations better. And that's the people in this room right here. And that's the people that have worn the uniform before and continue to wear it. And these are the people that we need to be putting in the right position so that we can make corporate America a little bit of a better place. So how can I put this in terms that you can bring up to an employer, right? Let's do a little exercise. So if you can see here, I'm making you all, every single person in this room here is the general manager for a football team. This is your head coach's record for the first 5 years, and you have a decision to make. Are you going to hire this person? Are you going to keep this person on staff? Or are you going to fire this person? You don't have to say it out loud. I just want you to think about it. Okay. So let's take a look. Okay. For those of you, and let's see a show of hands. Who fired this person? Anyone? All right, we got a couple in there. All right, cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that decided to give this person the axe, you just fired Tom Landry. One of the best coaches in the history of the NFL. But that was now, I just want to run through Tom Landry's situation here and what he did, because it was a lot more than wins and losses. And I want you to put yourself in this position too, and think about the people and the teams that you've led. Tom Landry, it took a long time for him. The thing that you didn't see on that record was that he started coaching with an expansion franchise that most of us have heard of, Dallas Cowboys, which that does not roll off the tongue for me, being raised in Wisconsin. But hey, this is the best example I could find. Tom Landry did more than win 300 games. He did more than go to 5 Super Bowls. He did more than win 2 Super Bowls. He also invented processes and procedures that the NFL uses today. He has a coaching tree underneath him that has 480 wins, multiple Super Bowl appearances, wins, and national championships. You know, Mike Ditka, Gene Stallings, who are some of the other ones that I can think of. There were about 5 of them that had a general, that were of the major makeup of those 480 wins. So think about your career, think about what you've done, and think about the people that you have led that have become something, that have turned processes better, that have made things better than when we had them in the first place. That's your legacy. That is your legacy. And it is scrolled in the times of the defense of this nation and for what has kept us free. And I'm not overstating that at all. And I'm telling you right now, if you're not exemplifying that, if you're not exploiting it, if you don't find a way to talk about it and tell your story and your legacy, you may be the next Tom Landry that goes to the wayside. Because right now, this world does not recognize time the way that we should, the way that it should be recognized. And with that, the bypassing of second and third causal effects will absolutely happen. The world's going to be a worse place if we don't do something about this. So, and actually, I'm just taking a look at my notes here. Just for those of you that know, Mike Ditka, Raymond Berry, Dan Reeves, Gene Stallings, Dick Nolan, John Makovich, those are the coaches that I had written down. So it's an impressive list, but you all have that list too. All right. Well, we're going to take questions after this too, and I'll stay as long as absolutely needed, because again, I truly believe that my service is for life, and I am here to help you all in any capacity I have. So anyone, whether you're a job seeking veteran or someone that's in a position to help our veterans, please contact me at any of these numbers. You can write them down, you can take them. I will drop what I'm doing to help a veteran out. Absolutely. But awesome. When I started this presentation, I wanted this message to be for 2 people, right? Like as I said before, for the vets that are seeking jobs and for the prospective employers. And I want to go back to that Tom Landry example. For as many times as I was told that I would not be hired for a position because they believed it would take too much time to train me, I feel for you. I do. I feel for you, because it doesn't seem fair, but it can be overcome. So for those that are in that position, and I'll say this again, don't let that Tom Landry go by, because this room right here and all the other people in the Eagle Group and everyone else that we know that's in that position of transition, consider yourself a Tom Landry. You're an innovator, and you're going to make an organization a better place. And then for those of you that are seeking employment, use everything at your disposal. You can't train enough for interviews. You can't go back and take a look at your people that you've led and not tell their stories, right? Well, obviously with maintaining PII, but that's what's going to put you over the top. And that's what's going to not just help you for that cause, but you're also going to be setting up an example for future generations that are in this position too. So I'm telling you right now, this is the love of my life. I will always, always, always appreciate everything that the military has done for me, the people that I served with, those that I led. And I wish you all nothing but the best. I wish you all happy holidays. God bless you all. And thank you all for everything that you've done in the defense of this country.
Thank you, Aaron.